From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
The growing season for a sweet spring favorite.
I've got a water wheel planter that pokes holes as you ride and then do them by hand.
It all starts now in Arkansas. Dry conditions are causing planting problems when it comes to winter wheat.
Some producers are opting not to plant in dust this year.
While the same conditions are pushing harvest into overdrive.
This is shaping up to be one of the faster harvests we ever experienced from start to finish.
The good news, bad news is harvest rolls at a record pace in many places right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer.
Ben's bins, please hold.
Yeah, Ben's has been busy all day.
Seems like no one can keep up with this new Z series. What did you all put in these seeds?
Science.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Harvest has moved well beyond the halfway point. USDA providing a new crop progress report showing corn and soybean harvest took a gigantic leap in the past week. Now it shows 65% of the nation's corn is now shelled. That's 13% ahead of the 5-year average and up 18% from just a week ago, with Iowa a whopping 20 points ahead of its usual pace at 68% harvested. Meanwhile, 81% of the nation's soybeans have been harvested, usually at 67% complete and up 14% from last week. Iowa soybeans are 91% complete, 15 points ahead of the 5-year average. South Dakota farmers are also rushing through a record fast harvest. As of Monday, 91% of the soybeans and 56% of the corn had been harvested. However, as AgDay's Michelle Rook reports, yields have been variable from north to south.
Excessive rains and flooding this spring in east central and southeastern South Dakota trimmed top end yield potential off the crops, and it's showing up this fall at harvest. USDA is projecting a record corn yield for South Dakota at 163 bushels and higher soybean yields than last year at 47 bushels per acre. That seems like a tough lift with the historic flooding in the southeast in June. For Tim Ostrom, a tenth of his acres were wiped out. Others have potholes.
We have a lot of other fields that are not tiled very well and have a lot of issues with drainage, and those, of course, they got big pockets of zero yield.
Flash drought also hit at the end of the season, so his beans ran from 30 to 52 bushels per acre, and corn yields are also highly variable.
It's going to be anywhere from 100 to 190. This will be my best field.
Early season rains also left drowned-out spots for Kevin Deinert.
That varies from maybe 10% up to 20, but generally in every field we have seen some sort of affected area, and that's, you know, when we start adding up all those zeros within that field, it really starts to drag the average down.
While it didn't hurt corn, his soybean yields are disappointing.
Somewhere in that middle 40s to high 30s is going to catch a lot of our fields. Probably going to come in at average to maybe slightly below average for us.
East central South Dakota was also hit with weather adversity.
You know, we started out wet, and beans don't like being wet. Then we got a little bit dry there towards the end of July, 1st August.
While seed sizes average, the beans they're harvesting quickly dried down to 8 to 10% moisture, also trimming production.
We're in the from 40 to 55 range for the most part. Most of the time we're one side or the other of 50 right now.
However, corn seemed to handle the weather issues better as Struck's yields are close to average.
We'll probably be in the 150-60 range on corn for the most part, I would say. The irrigated corn looks really good.
In contrast, the Northeast saw better moisture conditions, so soybeans have been average to slightly above.
I think we got a shot at being probably 5 bushel over APH. So yeah, things are looking good. They're drying up nice and nice crop.
The early rain may have made the corn as well.
I think we have a shot at being a little above last year in the 190 to 210. So if we can hold in that area, it'd be a great year.
And with the dry weather this fall, harvest is running at record pace.
This is shaping up to be one of the faster harvests we ever experienced from start to finish.
I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. The same weather that has aided in harvest is not necessarily good news for the winter wheat crop. In some areas, it's having difficulty getting established and emerging or even planted due to dry conditions. Nationally, 73% of the crop is in the ground. That's 3% behind the 5-year average.
Some producers are opting not to plant in dust this year, hopefully awaiting a better scenario with some rain.
Now, the states seeing the most significant delays are Oklahoma and Montana. So is any rain in the forecast to help the winter wheat crop along? Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht joins us with an update.
Yeah, in terms of the precipitation forecast, not seeing any significant systems, tropical in nature or just low pressure systems working across the United States that would bring widespread showers. Or rather, a couple of clipper systems will bring some light rain back into parts of Michigan, possibly into Canada. You can kind of see where that cold front is laying down some rain. That's over the next 24 hours. As we go out over the next 7 days, another front set to come through Friday night and into Saturday. Now, rather, I should say Thursday night into early Friday morning, which could have a little bit more rain attached to it. But I'm still only expecting a 10th up to maybe half an inch, a few pockets, and may get some more. Otherwise quiet across the United States in regards to the rain chances through the plains, the Midwest, the East Coast. A little bit heavier showers, though, and this is where we're going to be concerned more about localized flooding is off on the West Coast as that trough digs in and the ridge battles that trough back here to the east. You're looking at wet weather here, dry weather there. And Blaze Hendrickson in west central North Dakota capturing a little bit of what he's seeing this harvest season. If you look closely, you can see while that field is ready for harvest, the crop is laying down. Now, Blaze is saying sarcastically, no stress here. Hopefully he'll see some better looking crops soon. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
The damage to Georgia's cotton crop was called catastrophic following Hurricane Helene. One University of Georgia Extension cotton specialist has been touring the damage. Now, earlier this month, he reported seeing fields that contained at least 40% to 50% loss. However, he says the western side of the state saw less damage to the cotton crop, but things may be looking up for at least some cotton producers in the state.
A week ago, Georgia cotton was rated 31% very poor to poor. That has now improved to 24%. And the amount of Georgia cotton rated good to excellent increasing from last week's 33% back up to 38%. So perhaps, obviously there was significant damage in some areas, maybe not quite as bad overall as originally feared.
Early estimates show Georgia may have lost approximately 600,000 bales of cotton in the storm. And there was concern about fertilizer production in the Tampa, Florida area due to the hurricanes. Mosaic says recovery efforts post-Hurricane Milton and Helene are progressing. Now, it says all Florida-based employees are safe and accounted for, and all Florida production facilities have returned to normal operation except its Riverview location, which has resumed production and is expected to return to normal rates by the end of this week. It also says its mining sites are in the process of starting back up. Now, Mosaic says it expects hurricane-related production impacts to be in the range of 200 to 250,000 tons in the fourth quarter. Secretary of State Lloyd Austin announced a $400 million military aid package to Ukraine during his visit to Kyiv this week. Meanwhile, despite an escalation in the war between Russia and Ukraine, Ukraine's grain exports have surpassed last year's pace for the 2024-25 season. Exports have reached 13 million metric tons. Now, that's up more than 8 million metric tons from last year at this time. Exports this month alone reached 2.6 million metric tons, significantly higher than at this point last October. And in Russia, though, wheat production could fall for a third straight year. Two leading Black Sea consultancies are forecasting production in a range of 80 million metric tons to 85 million metric tons. Experts say unfavorable weather, including heavy rain in some regions and drought in others, has complicated winter grain planting across Russia. One crop consulting company says the poor condition of winter wheat is raising concerns about an increased risk of winter kill and crop failure. It was a strong day for commodities on Tuesday as grains and livestock both trend higher. We'll have details next. And later, juicy ripe strawberries might get harvested in the spring, but planting starts now. We're off to Arkansas, where farmers are putting in next year's crop in the country. grains and livestock all enjoyed a day in the green on Tuesday. AgDay's Michelle Rook is back with the good news in today's markets now.
Well, another strong day in the grains on Tuesday. Craig Turner with StoneX is back with analysis. Okay, let's talk about the grain trade. We bounced off some support levels that we needed to hold in the grain. So some of it's technical buying, but it's also about demand, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We had a technical bounce there on the markets. We got a little oversold, even saw a little bit of a reversal on the charts too. We're also, we take a look at the seasonality of the grain markets. That'll give us a reason to be a little bit more bullish here too. And the demand, we saw, on Tuesday, Mexico coming in again and buying corn. We saw that earlier this week and at the end of last week, corn, soybeans, and some wheat. And also too, when you get past 50% harvest progress on corn and soybeans, that is usually from a seasonal chart perspective where you start to see the markets kind of make that second bottom. We usually have a first bottoming out with the grain oilseed markets at the end of August as all the old crop cash contracts come, about. And then sometimes whenever we get, past that 50% mark, we'll see kind of that secondary bottoming.
Yeah, so how much upside is there? Because obviously we're trying to also correct our oversold status. So how much retracement can we expect?
Yeah, so I mean, for corn, we've gotten back up to the 430s recently. We'll see if we can get there. Beans had a bigger rebound because of the weather in South America had been dry. So I don't know if we're going to get back up into the high tens again, but we certainly can make a run into to the mid tens. On the wheat market's also kind of tight. Russia is talking about price floors. So when you take a look at, let's say, wheat and corn, you can get tighter much faster, not just in the United States, but definitely globally in the world export market. So I'd be looking for corn and wheat here to rally and challenge some of the resistance levels. I think soybeans is tough, especially when we're 2 weeks away from an election.
Thanks so much. That's Craig Turner with StoneX. We'll have more AgDay coming up.
Register now for the Milk Business Conference, December 10th and 11th in Vegas, for a chance to win tickets to the National Finals Rodeo while in town.
Yeah, once again, just want to update you on that October 29th and November 4th temperature outlook. What we're seeing today compared to yesterday is the confidence, the highest contour that we have on this map shifting to the east. What that tells us is that ridge of high pressure responsible for the warmest air will be shifting east. Conversely, we go over here and you look at the blue, that is starting to grow to the east as well. So we're starting to see that pattern not necessarily break down, but shift. Your ridge moves to the east. The trough that's already digging down out on the west coast will continue to work from the west to the east as we go through the week. So that October 29th, November 4th, did it again. You got the highest percentage of above normal temperatures back in the Midwest and the Northeast. If you extend this out to the 10th or even the 11th of November, you'll start to see that cool, colder air move to the east as well. So everything kind of shifting east, not necessarily breaking down. As for that jet stream coming up for you Wednesday night, so weak little clipper system is going to be the first of two cold fronts. You got a quick ridge coming in on Thursday, so warmer than average conditions back into Nebraska, Oklahoma, but also a little bit into Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. On Thursday, you can see another cold front coming through parts of the Four Corners as well as the Dakotas as you go Thursday night and into Friday. Very shallow though, and in fact not enough to really dig down, which means that ridge is going to be back into play. As we get deeper into October and early November, this is the pattern we're looking for when it comes to that real first cold shot of air. We are well behind in terms of averages. The jet stream next Tuesday, just then starting to take shape. We'll start off with Sharp, Utah, a high around 72, 36 degrees in Sharp. Dull, Tennessee, high around 82 degrees, low of 49 degrees. Knife Lake, Minnesota, partly cloudy, high of 52, low of 36.
We'll look at the latest forecast for pork prices in 2025 coming up next. And later, next year's crop of strawberries starts now for farmers in Arkansas. We'll catch up with planting season in the country. USDA is forecasting a slight reduction in pork production for this year. The World Agricultural Outlook Board says there's been a bit of a slowdown in fourth quarter slaughter pace. However, looking ahead to 2025 in the latest Hogs and Pigs report, things could change.
Increase in farrowing intentions, so that's going to support higher production in 2025. We increased our pork production forecast by 10 million pounds, and it would be up about 570 million pounds year over year to 28.5 billion pounds of pork.
The board says price strength in the hog market supports price increase forecast for this year and next year. Pigs could possibly hold hope for humans fighting a cancer called melanoma. Texas A&M University researchers are collaborating on new studies to evaluate the effectiveness of ultrasound and light to treat melanomas in pigs. The treatment is called photodynamic therapy. The idea: introduce a chemical that is absorbed by skin cancer cells. The chemical only reacts when exposed to a certain kind of light, which causes new molecules to form that in turn destroy the cancer cells. Now, the researchers say finding a more effective way to treat the cancer using light therapy could open doors to low-cost, non-invasive treatment in pigs and humans. For more on this research, check out this story over at porkbusiness.com. Farmers in Arkansas know what it takes to grow great strawberries. It requires planting next season's crop right now. We'll check on progress next.
AgDay is brought to you by Winfield United. Unlock the full potential of every field with Winfield United crop protection solutions built from decades of research. Built for success, built for you, built for it. Learn more at winfieldunited.com.
Arkansas, growing strawberries for next year starts now. And as Arkansas Farm Bureau shows us, it's a family gathering when Saltbox Farm in Benton drops plant plugs in the dirt.
First week of October, this is our planting time in this latitude, this area of the state. We're truly a family farm. I usually plant 30,000 plants. I've done it down to 15. We'll kind of have to watch how we pick. Most of that's because one of our best strawberry hands is grown up and graduated high school and left home.
Come on!
So we got a water wheel planter there with 4 folks. I've switched to a 3-row system this year, so we're doing the center row and then I'll go with the outside rows. So I'll make more passes, but there'll be less yelling to stop and less problems. You always got to remember this is what you prayed for. The way we grow strawberries is called plasticulture. This is a 1-year crop. We have to remove the plants so that the nutrients can get right, pH can get back, and the plastic, of course, would degrade over the year. So we have to pull them up and put them in every year. So he's nice, heat right there. His crown's gonna grow. The plastic will protect the berries from water and dirt because that's where the disease comes from. The best way to put it is that it creates an environment for that plant to reach its yield potential, which is 1 pound to 1.5 pounds. You see how the sun's coming up now? It's hitting this side of the beds. So that's solar energy, and that's why the the roads have got to be oriented north and south so they can get the east, west sun and the noontime sun. I've got a water wheel planter that pokes holes as you ride and then do them by hand so that we can make sure that every plant is put 1/4 inch below the dirt, straight up and down. That way we don't have crowns that'll grow up and fruit will go under the plastic. We're taking the time, and I've planted less plants this year, so we've got the time to do it. Then we need so many heat units. Strawberries don't grow below 50 degrees. Every berry you pick in the spring sets buds in the fall, and they have to have so many heat units before the daylight drops below 10 hours. Once they get into January, they're hardy down to about 10 degrees. They start waking up in February. So then we start worrying about weeds that are coming up in the plants, so we'll start pulling them so that by the time the pickers get here in April, the rows are nice and clean. When April comes, we start spraying fungicides. We do what the University of Arkansas says what we should do. If I could grow strawberries without spraying anything, I would definitely love to do that, but we've never sprayed an insecticide. Never had a bug, a slug, or a worm eat more than his fair share. The leaves, they're standing up good. Like I said, these were just planted yesterday. They're upright. they're reaching for the sun. But there's a tab under these from the transplanter spikes that if that gets too deep down in the roots, it'll block off those roots from the soil, depriving that plant of nutrients and water to make the best amount it can do.
And our thanks to the Arkansas Farm Bureau for sharing that story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day on the Farm Country.